All right, buckle up, everyone, because today's deep dive is a wild one. We're going to be talking about a guy named Timothy Dexter, and his story is, well, let's just say it's almost too crazy to believe.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Right, exactly. It's like one of those truth is stranger than fiction kind of deals. This guy, Timothy Dexter, he lived in America in the 1700s, and he went from being dirt poor to, like, seriously rich.
One of the wealthiest men in America, actually.
Yeah. And the thing is, he had almost no education. So how did he pull it off? That's what we're going to be digging into today.
It's a question that's puzzled people for centuries. I mean, was it luck, genius, some kind of bizarre combination of both?
And here's where it gets even more interesting. Our main sources for this deep dive are, get this, a TikTok video and the comment section below it.
You might be thinking, wait, TikTok. But trust me, the comments on this video are pure gold. They give us this incredible snapshot of how people today are reacting to Dexter's story, what they find inspiring, what they find baffling.
And sometimes what they find downright hilarious.
It's like Dexter's life is this Rorschach test, with people projecting their own ideas about success and what it takes to make it in the world.
Okay, so TikTok lays out the basics of Dexter's story. And it's full of these, like, crazy business ventures that no sane person would ever attempt. One of the most famous ones is the warming pan incident.
Yeah, this one's a classic. So warming pans, they were used to, heat up beds in cold climates. Makes sense, right?
Right.
Well, Dexter decided to ship a whole bunch of them to the West Indies. Now, if you know anything about the West Indies, it's that they're tropical islands, it's hot there, so selling warming pans there, it's like selling ice to Eskimos.
Totally. Everyone thought he was nuts. But guess what? Dexter ended up making a huge profit.
Turns out, the plantation owners in the West Indies found a new use for the warming pans. They started using them as ladles for molasses.
Yeah, talk about a lucky break.
It really makes you wonder, was this intentional on Dexter's part? Did he somehow foresee this bizarre turn of events? Or was he just incredibly, unbelievably lucky? That's a question that comes up a lot in the TikTok comments, and there's no easy answer.
And this wasn't just a one-time thing. Dexter pulled off other crazy schemes, like there's a story about him selling coal to Newcastle, a place already famous for its coal mines.
Yeah?
It's like he was deliberately doing things that everyone thought were foolish.
And that's where the Kanye West comparisons come in. Some people in the comments are pointing out the similarities between Dexter and Kanye, how they both seem to thrive on doing the unexpected, on challenging the status quo.
Yeah, both of them are masters of getting people talking, that's for sure. But let's move on to another part of Dexter's story that's just as wild. This guy decided to write a book.
Oh yeah, Pickle for the Knowing Ones. This book is legendary, and not necessarily for the right reasons.
Right, it's full of grammatical errors, misspellings, weird tangents, like there's no punctuation, it's a mess.
But that's what makes it so fascinating. Some people think it's just pure nonsense, a product of Dexter's lack of education.
Right.
But others believe there's something more going on, that maybe he was deliberately making a statement, using his book as a form of social commentary.
It's like that phrase he used to say, a pickle for the knowing ones. It's so cryptic, so open to interpretation. Was he trying to send a message to those who could see through the facade? Or was he just messing with everyone?
The comments are full of theories about this. Some think it was a subtle jab at the elite, suggesting that they were blind to something important.
Right.
Others see it as a more playful thing, like he was acknowledging that life is full of mysteries, things we might never fully understand.
It's clear that Dexter wasn't just some random rich guy.
Yeah.
He was a provocateur,
Mm-hmm.
someone who challenged the way people thought.
Absolutely. He made them question their assumptions, their ideas about success, about what it means to be smart, to be successful.
And that's why his story is still so relevant today, centuries later. People are still trying to figure him out.
Exactly. We're drawn to his story because it forces us to ask some big questions about ourselves, about the world around us.
But before we dive deeper into all that, there's one comment I have to share. It's hilarious, and it kind of blew my mind. Someone compared Dexter to a time traveler. Like he was taking advantage of opportunities that no one else could even see because they weren't from his time period.
It's such a funny thought, but it does make you think, right? Was Dexter just incredibly lucky, or was there something more to it?
It's like he was operating on a different level.
Right, like he had access to knowledge or insights that were beyond the grasp of everyone else.
And that's what makes Dexter's story so captivating. It's this puzzle box that we keep trying to open even though we might never fully solve it.
Exactly. And the journey of trying to figure him out is half the fun, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Okay, so We've laid out the basics of Dexter's story, but we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, and we're going to do just that in the next part of this deep dive.
We'll be diving into some of the more nuanced interpretations of Dexter's life, looking at the questions of whether he was a calculated manipulator or a happy-go-lucky eccentric who just stumbled into fortune.
And we'll examine how his story continues to challenge our assumptions about success, individuality, and the crazy, often unpredictable dance between intention and serendipity. One thing that really stands out about Dexter is how much he seemed to play up his image as this kind of oddball. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, like that whole thing with his mansion.
Oh, right, with all the statues.
Yeah, the statues. He had all these statues of famous people like George Washington, and then he had statues of himself, too. Like, he was one of them.
It's like he was trying to create his own little Mount Rushmore.
Exactly. And then there's the whole Lord Timothy Dexter thing. He actually had himself declared Lord Timothy Dexter.
Even though, America doesn't have lords.
Right. It's like he was making fun of the whole idea of aristocracy.
Oh, and speaking of making fun of things, there was this comment that said Dexter was basically trolling everyone in Massachusetts while making a fortune.
I love that. It really makes you wonder, what was going on in his head? Was he just having a laugh at everyone's expense, or was there something more to it?
It's so hard to tell, and that's what makes him so fascinating, right? Centuries later, we're still trying to figure him out.
It's like he left this giant puzzle behind, and we're all trying to piece it together.
And the TikTok comments are like, all these different pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. You've got people who see Dexter as this kind of folk hero, like he's the symbol of individuality and doing your own thing no matter what anyone else says.
Yeah, they're like, look at this guy. He didn't follow the rules, and he won big time.
Right. But then you've got others who are like, hold on a minute, this guy got lucky, that's all. They're more skeptical, you know?
Yeah, they're the ones who are like, don't try this at home, kids.
Exactly. So you've got these two very different ways of looking at Dexter. On one hand, he's this disruptor, this visionary. On the other hand, he's this lucky fool.
And maybe the truth is somewhere in between,
It's definitely possible. But there's another element to Dexter's story that adds another layer of complexity, and that's his religious beliefs.
Oh, yeah, right. I saw some comments about that.
Yeah, there were a few. Apparently, Dexter was very religious. He attributed a lot of his success to God.
Someone even mentioned that he always said Jesus Christ had his back.
It's kind of strange, right? You've got this guy who's doing all these wild, unconventional things, and yet he's deeply religious.
It makes you wonder how those two sides of him fit together.
Right. Did he see his financial success as a sign of God's favor? Or was he using religion to justify his actions?
Or maybe it was something else entirely.
It's a question that's really hard to answer. But it does highlight the fact that Dexter was a very complex individual.
Yeah, there was a lot more to him than meets the eye.
Definitely. And I think that's why his story continues to fascinate us even centuries later. He challenges our assumptions, makes us think about things in a different way.
He's like this mirror that reflects our own beliefs about success, about individuality, about the way the world works.
So as we wrap up this second part of our deep dive into Dexter's life, let's consider this. Maybe the real value isn't in finding definitive answers.
Right, maybe it's more about asking the right questions.
Exactly. It's about challenging ourselves to think critically, to be open to new perspectives, to embrace the mystery of it all.
Because ultimately, that's what makes Dexter's story so compelling. It's a story that keeps us guessing, keeps us thinking, keeps us engaged.
And that's something truly special.
It's pretty wild to think about how much Dexter's story still resonates with people today, even centuries later.
Oh yeah, it's like he tapped into something timeless, something that speaks to us on a fundamental level.
Definitely. And I think those TikTok comments we've been looking at really drive that point home.
They do, don't they? It's amazing to see how many different ways people interpret his life, his success, his whole persona.
Some folks see him as this, icon of individuality. They're inspired by his willingness to break the mold, to do things his own way.
And in a world where we're constantly being told to fit in, to follow the rules, that kind of rebellious spirit can be pretty appealing.
Totally. But then you've got others who are more cautious. They see Dexter's story as more of a warning, like, hey, don't get too cocky, because luck can change in an instant.
And it's true, a lot of his success did seem to depend on being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, there were definitely some lucky breaks involved. But it's hard to deny that he also had this knack for, seeing opportunities that others missed.
He did, didn't he? It's like he had this intuition, this ability to spot the potential in things that other people dismissed as crazy or foolish.
And that brings up a really interesting question, doesn't it? How much of Dexter's success was due to luck, and how much was due to his own, I don't know, unique way of thinking?
It's a question that's probably impossible to answer definitively, but that's part of what keeps us coming back to his story, keeps us debating, keeps us trying to figure him out.
For sure. And even if we never fully crack the code of Timothy Dexter, I think there's still a lot we can learn from his life.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of embracing our own individuality.
Yeah, not being afraid to be different, to think outside the box.
Exactly. Dexter's story reminds us that there isn't just one path to success, one right way to do things.
And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of that Dexterian audacity is exactly what we need to shake things up, to create something truly remarkable in our own lives.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the incredible, perplexing, and often hilarious life of Timothy Dexter, we want to leave you with this.
Yeah, we've explored a lot of different facets of his story, but now it's your turn to keep the conversation going.
What are your thoughts on Timothy Dexter? Was he a genius, a lucky fool, a social commentator, or maybe some strange hybrid of all three?
And what about that cryptic phrase of his, a pickle for the knowing ones? What do you think he meant by that?
Whatever your interpretation, we encourage you to keep digging, keep exploring, keep those conversations going.
Because Timothy Dexter's story, much like the man himself, is full of surprises, full of contradictions, and ultimately full of life.